On today's Locked On NHL, the championship game is set. Canada versus the U.S. We'll discuss all the storylines and the news and notes around the tournament. Plus, Rachel Donner and Trey Matthews, Locked On NHL hosts, are live in Boston, what they're seeing ahead of the big game.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome inside another edition of Locked On NHL, your team every day. We're a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we have local experts on the biggest stories 5 days a week. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe on all your favorite Locked On NHL shows. Today is Wednesday, February 19th. I'm Ross Levitan. You can find me over at Locked On Ottawa Senators. As always on Wednesday, it's Mike DiStefano with me from Locked On Toronto Maple Leafs. And Mikey, I know we got a primarily U.S. audience for this show, so I was thinking about speaking in a bit heavier of a Canadian accent, eh?
Oh, is that what you're thinking about doing, Rossi boy?
Yes, sir.
I randomly ended up going Jamaican towards the end there. I don't know what happened on that one. My Toronto man's coming out of me, apparently.
Yeah, exactly. Well, hey, Jamaica, one of Canadians' favorite vacation places in the world, boy. But let's get into the game. Look, we got no issue telling y'all we're Canadian. Y'all, see, I'm playing both sides here. But all jokes aside, this is going to be a fantastic hockey game. The hockey gods couldn't have drawn it up any better. USA comes into Canada and gets the win in the preliminaries, and now they have a chance to go undefeated at home against Canada. Obviously, they lose against Sweden, but that game didn't matter. They have a chance to beat Canada again on home ice to establish dominance. For Canada, they say, hey, you come into our house, you take your shoes off, and you put a beating on us. Now it's our turn. How are you looking ahead at tomorrow's game?
I mean, it's going to be a fantastic one. It's going to be tough to live up to what we saw on Saturday, like the fireworks to start that game. Like we're not going to see that. We're definitely not going to see 3 fights in the opening 10 seconds. But I think we're going to see just as intense of a hockey game. I think it'll be similarly played, probably, another low-scoring game, 3-2 type of situation. I think there's going to be very little ice out there. I think both teams know that that's just how this tournament's going to have to be played. They're going to have to, remind themselves that we got to make sure that we stay and remain disciplined throughout the entire game. But I think it's going to be fantastic. I'm circling one player, though, to really, really make his mark on the game, and that's Mr. Connor McDavid of Team Canada.
I thought you were going to say make his mark Cale Makar.
No. I mean, look, Makar obviously is going to be a massive difference, right? The fact that he didn't play on Saturday, now he gets inserted back into the lineup here for the Thursday game in the championship. That's going to be a big difference because Makar makes it all happen from the back end. We know that. But to me, this is kind of a chance, a passing of the torch type of possibility here. Like Sid kind of led the way through the tournament to this point, and in the championship game, if Connor McDavid takes the torch from Sid and puts the team on his back and has a big moment or two in this game, I could be poetic and leads this team to a championship at the Four Nations, beats the U.S. on their own home soil. You take it back to 2010, right? What happened? U.S. won in the preliminary round, but then lost in the gold medal match. And it was Sidney Crosby in the golden goal that, put the Flames out there. I think we could see a similar situation here, but this time it's Connor McDavid who will take over as, Mr. Canadian hockey after this tournament. So I think it's an opportunity for him to have a pretty big game here.
And look, Team USA's D-core is stacked, but it was Charlie McAvoy that did his best against Connor McDavid, rocked him twice, hit him 4 times, broke up a number of plays. He played that game as well as you could hope anyone on your own team would play, and we're hoping that Charlie McAvoy is okay long-term. He's out week to week, had an infection in his AC upper body injury, AC joint, I believe it's called. I'm not a doctor, but whenever you're admitted to hospital for an infection, it's not good news. So we're praying and hoping that Charlie McAvoy is okay. You want this to be a best on best. And it's unfortunate. USA fans are saying, hey, what about Quinn Hughes? Canada fans are saying, what about Alex Pietrangelo and Shea Theodore who are out? Like, That's hockey, though, right? Guys are going to get banged up. You got to play the game with whatever you. Hey, just ask the Florida Panthers. Ask every
the injury. The injury, of course. The injury is whatever. But I actually think Quinn Hughes should be allowed to play in this game.
It wouldn't bother me.
I wouldn't bother me. It's best on best hockey. He's the best. He is the best defenseman with a U.S. passport. There's no doubt about that.
True.
He is the best American defenseman out there. He wasn't healthy to play the tournament at the start of it.
Is he healthy now? He's wearing a non-contact jersey yesterday.
That I don't know. But if he's willing to play, I would imagine he feels that he is healthy. He did originally pull out of the tournament because he wasn't ready to go. It's now been a week later. Your body can rest up in a week, and you can feel ready to go for one game. And potentially they do that. The latest, this is kind of going very back and forth, though, with the whole Quinn Hughes thing. Like yesterday, David Quinn, the assistant coach, came out and said he's en route to Boston. And then all of a sudden he's spotted at Canucks practice and was not on the bird to Boston after all. And then it comes out that he was wearing a red sweater at Canucks practice, a non-contact, which makes you think, oh, if he's wearing a non-contact, he couldn't possibly be able to play on Thursday for the Americans. And then today, on Wednesday, it turns out that USA is still very much in contact with Quinn Hughes. They're still trying to get him to Boston, just in case somebody, your boy Jake Sanderson, comes up with the sniffles.
Not the worst defenseman on the team either, but that's a story.
I'm just saying any defenseman, but I just
maybe Noah Hannafin.
Out to you. Maybe a Noah Hannafin, whoever it might be, might end up, waking up with a kink in their neck or something so that Quinn Hughes can get into the game. But it shouldn't get down to that, honestly. He should be able to play because he is the best defenseman. He was originally named to the team, too. That's the difference between Thomas Harley and Quinn Hughes, at least.
So then let's fly in Pietrangelo. It's one game.
If Pietrangelo wants to, go ahead. I don't care. Go ahead.
Can we get a goal? Can we get a better goalie while we're at
it? That I would. If they would have named Logan Thompson originally, like they should have, then yeah, then they should have done that. But they can't do that for that one. But honestly, I don't know. Do you think he's going to play? I have a sneaky suspicion. Really,
I don't think he's going to fly there.
I think he's going to play. I think he's going to end up flying there. I think someone's going to.
And you like the Canucks? Like, how would you feel if you're a Canucks fan? Apparently, Quinn Hughes flew back to Vancouver the day before from the East Coast.
Yeah.
So to ask him to go East Coast to Vancouver, fly back to Boston,
it was
play one game, and then go to Vegas.
I mean, if he wants to play in that game, then yeah, go ahead. Like, go ahead. If he's healthy, again, it comes down to health, which is a very vague term, right? Like, you don't know, like, what is healthy? Is he healthy to play, or is he healthy in general? I don't know that answer. But if Quinn Hughes, who did make a decision not to play in this tournament, 2 weeks ago, he was not healthy for the final, I think 2-3 games of the season leading up to the Four Nations break, and decided, no, I'm going to take this break to get healthy so I can be ready for the club when we get back to playing hockey. They start on a 5-game road trip to start off, coming off of the Four Nations break. What's an extra 2 days? Like, if he's going to be healthy to play for them in Vegas on Saturday, he's probably healthy enough to play for USA on Thursday. And if it's a true best on best, I want him out there, and I want to see what they can do, especially since the Americans are losing out on Charlie McAvoy, which obviously sucks, and you can't replace him in his physicality, but Quinn Hughes, pretty damn good replacement for the Americans if they can make that happen.
Well, if everybody's healthy, that's their top pair on the back end.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So we'll see. Hey, it's going to be a hell of a game. And I've actually got an issue with Team Canada's roster construction. I'll get to that in the next segment, but I'm excited for this game. Look, it's a toss-up. Our friends at FanDuel have -110 both ways. It is as exciting of a game as you'll ever hope to have. And credit to all the players, because they could have gone the NBA route and said, we're just going to go up and show up, and we've already made it. Like, the real prestige was being named to this team. They are treating this like it is the Stanley Cup Finals. And because of that, guys are banged up. Matthew Tkachuk was in and out of practice today. Brady Tkachuk did not practice after crashing into the boards. Pillsy had a great line on Locked On Sens. He said, forget about the Canadians and focus on the Canadiens, Senators Habs on Saturday nights, the first game back after this. So I thought that was nice. Obviously, he had his Maple Leaf tattooed on his forehead.
Linus Hallmark going to play? He's got the sniffles.
He's back at practice. Play? Yeah, he's back at practice today for all. So,
that's good. That's good.
That was a no-win situation for him to play in that game. Who cares? It was a complete, and that was the only game of the whole tournament so far that you could tell didn't have the same intensity because there was nothing on the line. These guys are playing like there's something on the line.
Goss Brady.
I know. Yeah, because Brady doesn't have any gear but 100%.
No,
barreling down. So
I respect it, man. I do respect it. I will say the Tkachuk brothers are the real life Bash brothers. They're real life Bash brothers, man.
They really are, man. And they're great people. Brady's been on the show a bunch. He's an absolute beauty. And hopefully everybody gets out of this healthy. Obviously, guys haven't already with McAvoy and Theodore being week to week right now, and Theodore more month to month. Seems like he's going to be back towards April. So lots of storylines, but what's my concern with Team Canada, Mikey?
Vegas. Is that what you're saying? Cap space for Vegas?
Oh, shocker. NHL season's coming back soon, but we got more Four Nations talk on the other side. You're listening to Locked On NHL, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. Are you looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack in to a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. I got some right here. Wonderful Pistachios, one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fueled longer. I love the no-shell varieties, but there's also something to be said about snapping in to a pistachio at Wonderful Pistachios. Whenever I need a quick protein boost, whether it's right after I go for a workout, it's always my go-to snack. And if you love it, you will fall in love with these Wonderful Pistachios. They're just little green wonders. I'll show you one right here. Delicious. So get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Just visit them at wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more about this wonderful snack. Welcome back, Locked On NHL, your team every day. Make sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, not only here on Locked On NHL, but we got team shows for every single team in the NHL, like Locked On Maple Leafs with Mike DiStefano and over at Locked On Senators with myself. We've also got Locked On Philadelphia Flyers host Rachel Donner and Locked On New Jersey Devils host Trey Matthews joining us later in the show from Boston with their boots on the ground report. But Mikey, I'm nervous about Canada. You know why?
Why is that, pal?
I think they built a double IIHF roster for an NHL tournament.
No, it's definitely a worthwhile concern because you look at what's won at the NHL level, and it's not size, it's not skill and speed, it's size and structure, right? And it's physicality. And it's taken away time and space. And that's exactly what the Americans have done best. And it's why they won the first game. Having a top-tier goaltender works as well. But I understand the concern there for sure. And it's a big reason why Canada kind of failed to muster up a whole lot of offense in that game against the Americans. But I don't know.
Kept away from the home plate. Like, they couldn't get to the net. Yeah. Credit to the decor. Like, this Jacob Slavin, everyone knows he's good, but this guy's elite. He is an unbelievable player. But, like, Canada, I feel like on the forecheck, like, I'm not asking for getting the toughest guys. Like, I'm not saying let's get Ryan Reeves and Mathieu Olivier on the team. No disrespect to those guys. But, like, they could have used a Zach Hyman or a Tom Wilson that's going to be the F1 on the rush and bang bodies every time you're a defenseman going back. You know you're going to get hit. As good as Marner, Point, Hagel, all those guys are, and you keep going down. Like, Jarvis and Marchand to me are the same player. Like, they have so much of this small finesse, speed aspect of their game. You have the top 6 that's going to score a ton of goals with McKinnon, McDavid, Crosby. Like, I feel like they just went too deep into that. And they forgot, like, they have one guy. Mark Stone is an elite F1 He's always on pucks.
Sam Bennett. I think Sam Bennett,
but he's a fourth line guy.
A little bit of physical. Yeah, but that's what you're talking about. You're talking
about
if
you have Hyman or Wilson, they're going to play with skilled
Tom
players.
Wilson on your top six.
I put Zach Hyman with. I put Hyman with McDavid.
You would put Hyman with McDavid because they have that familiarity. But like you said, Tom Wilson, you were going to put Tom Wilson in your top six. No, he's going to be a fourth line winger right next to Sam Bennett. That's what's going to end up happening with Tom Wilson.
Right. So instead, they've got Brandon Hagel on the fourth line. I'm a huge Brandon Hagel guy.
I like Hagel, though.
I liked it a lot more. Sorelli hasn't done much.
Sorelli's been okay. I think he's done well defensively. And that's
but would
really
you prefer to have Sorelli or Tom Wilson in a lineup against Team USA for all the marbles?
Really? Yeah, Sorelli.
I don't know about that.
Dude, Sorelli's done nothing but win his entire career.
I mean, Tom Wilson's got a cup. Tom Wilson's got 24 cups.
Sorelli's an unbelievable player. And he's
right, but you have guys like that already. They just took too much of the same thing.
I don't know.
Making me nervous.
All right. Well, we'll see what ends up showing up. I kind of think though that the Americans won the first game, and I actually think now it's advantage Canada because they know what they need. They know what to expect, and when Canada, because they're so skilled, so speed, their hockey IQ's off the charts. They can think the game at a higher level, I think, than some of these players on the Americans. They're just, the Canada's forwards, McKinnon, Crosby, McDavid, like they are three of the top 5 best players in the world. And
McDavid, McKinnon are 1-2.
And Crosby's IQ is at the tippy top when it comes to that.
His goal against Sweden, Finland, the empty netter there was his first shot on goal of the tournament.
That's actually kind of absurd and wild to hear. But anyways, I think that it allows them to learn from the loss on Saturday. And I think that gives them an opportunity to correct the mistakes and figure out, okay, this is what they did to us. You watch some film. They've had 2 days of film to watch. You watch the game, see what they did. All right, how can we beat that, right? How can we create and find that space? How can we get those seams? How can we get those slot passes through? I think they'll find a way, and then it's going to be on the Americans to make those in-game adjustments, and the cat and mouse match begins at that point. But I actually do think that Canada, because of the team that they built, are better off when it comes to playing a second game. The first game was all crash and bang, all physicality. But I think the Canadian team has an opportunity to learn from it and come out and put up a much better effort on Thursday.
So Dylan Larkin scores the game-winning goal in the first matchup. So let's take out the obvious, let's take out Eichel and Matthews, and let's take out McDavid and McKinnon. Who's the X factor for this? Who's a guy who you think has the opportunity to step up and be the guy in a huge moment for both teams?
Who's got the opportunity to be the guy? Well, look, here's the easy answer. Okay, the easy answer, who could step up and be the guy? If Jordan Binnington can have himself a game.
Like Game 7 in Boston?
Game 7 at TD Garden, which he's done before. I mean, that was the biggest difference between USA and Canada the first night, right? You look at the advanced analytics, goals saved above expected. I think Connor Hellebuyck had 2.39 goals saved above expected.
Mike Kelly qualified it as Mike Kelly with Sportlogy qualified it as a goalie steal for Team USA, and that's when the expected goals or goals saved above expected is higher than the expected goals that his team had.
Exactly. So that's exactly what we saw happen. So if Jordan Binnington can kind of flip that narrative and Binnington stands on his head and make the saves he needs to, which he has not done throughout this tournament, that Gensel goal is awful. There's been one goal each game that you could look at and say, ew, Binnington wants that back. Cannot allow that. And he's got to make a couple of big saves on top of that. So it's easy to go out there and say goaltending like they have yet to get that big game out of Binnington. He's played well enough for them to win, but if he can go out there and steal a game, I mean, that he has an opportunity to really play hero and flip the script on this whole goalie narrative and really prove hey, this is why they brought me here. So he's kind of a big X factor for me in the pipes.
And for Team USA?
You know who's got an opportunity for Team USA to really, really solidify themselves as a top-tier player? And to me, he's probably been one of their best players at this point this season. And I don't know if you've got an idea of where I'm going with, but dude, Zach Werenski has been unbelievable in this tournament. And the way that he's been able to drive offense, I think in terms of game score, like Dom Lucian and his game score model, Zach Werenski's number one in the tournament when it comes to his net score with his offensive and defensive ratings combined. He's been unreal. And I think he has an opportunity too. Like there's a lot of, Jack Eichel, the Kachucks, and, but you look at what he could do from the back end, he could really make a big time impact in this game as well.
Okay, I love those answers. I'm sticking on the blue line for Team USA as well. Jacob Slavin's going to be tasked with Connor McDavid. How are you going to be able to go up against the best player in the world, negate his speed as much as you can, and be as physical as Charlie McAvoy was on him? I think that really knocked him off his balance. And for Team Canada, Mark Stone is my answer. I think he's got a penchant for scoring in big games. Didn't he have a hat trick in Vegas's cup clinching win? I believe he did. He's going to get opportunities. He's going to play with Nathan McKinnon, I believe. Mark Stone's going to have a big game if Canada wins.
Isn't he with McDavid and Reinhart?
They moved it around. It was Point with McDavid for a while there. Team Canada hasn't practiced yet today.
Sorry, I think it was Reinhart. Point, McDavid, and Stone, then Crosby, McKinnon,
correct.
and Reinhart.
That's yeah. So they moved it up. So that is the updated line. Wherever Mark Stone is, though, you talk about how Canada probably has the edge in hockey IQ. There's no smarter hockey player than Sidney Crosby and Mark Stone. They're elite at thinking the game, and this is not going to be a run and gun game. So you need the guys who have the small puck battles, winning those, and that's how you're going to win the game. So I got Mark Stone.
I'll give you one more little X factor for me because Binnington's a little bit of a cheat, but Braden Point has an opportunity too. He's a guy who's come up in big time games. He's been to 3 Cup finals, 2 Stanley Cups to his name. I think Braden Point has an opportunity to score a big goal in a big moment because he's that guy. He's that guy. He's that good too.
Well, no matter who you're cheering for, enjoy the game tomorrow night. It's going to be an absolute blast. We'll have another episode for you of Locked On NHL in the morning for you. And for today, we say goodbye, but we are passing it along now to Rachel Donner and Trey Matthews live in Boston for their thoughts on the Four Nations face-off.
Hi, this is Rachel Donner from Locked On NHL and Locked On Flyers here with Trey Matthews of Locked On Devils. We're both here in Boston for the NHL Four Nations face-off, and it has been an incredible tournament so far, right?
Absolutely. The game against Team Canada and Team USA on Saturday, it generated 4.4 million viewers. That is the most watched non-Stanley Cup Finals game since 2019. This has been a big success, Rachel.
Yeah, and they've absolutely done a great job to set the stage for a rematch in the final on Thursday night, USA versus Canada, but this time with a home crowd for the United States. What do you think that'll mean?
Well, we saw the crowd be put into a lather up in the Bell Center, and now it's coming to American soil. So far, the crowd has been tremendous, at least from my end. And now that you got Team Canada and Team USA, respectfully, the two headliners for this tournament, I expect for it to be absolutely loud. You and I are probably going to have to get here a little bit earlier than usual because I think traffic is going to be a little hectic down here in Boston.
Absolutely. Now, both coaches spoke to the media ahead of Thursday's game, but this is a couple days out now, and I think they're being a little cagey about their lineups and decisions that'll be made for the Thursday night game.
And rightfully so, because you don't want your team to be predictable. I think that's the big thing. And usually we see it in hockey in general, where if a player is dealing with an injury, you don't really go into specifics. You try to be as vague as possible. You say upper body, lower body, all of that. And I think Team USA and Team Canada, they're trying to throw a curveball at one another. And honestly, I'm not going to complain about it because that means we're in store for another great matchup. I'm really excited for it.
Yeah. And this tournament being best on best, I mean, you could make an argument for Sweden having been the most consistent in the tournament, having not won or not lost in regulation the entire time. But USA Canada is what people wanted, right?
Yeah, I mean, going into this tournament, Team Sweden was actually my sleeper because I know what Jesper Bratt is capable of. And you saw Sam Ersson. He wasn't even supposed to be in this tournament originally. Correct. And he did a phenomenal job in the game against Team USA. Team Sweden, they did not want to leave this tournament empty-handed. They had no shot of going to the championship game, but still, you're playing for pride. You're playing for something a little bit bigger. And I think that's the whole point of this tournament. That's the beauty of it, which is you're playing for something a little bit bigger, because I've said it many times on my show. You don't want to put on a poor performance for the country you're representing, because that's not very patriotic of you, if you ask me, but respectfully, just a little joke. But in all seriousness, the players are treating this like a game 7, and you just see it in the product.
Absolutely. And I think, at least my observation from all the players that we talked to on Tuesday ahead of Thursday's game, like, everybody is all business, and it feels like the NHL is a whole other world from what these guys are experiencing right now and in this moment.
I agree with you. And the thing is like, I've even asked some of the players, like, how does this help grow the game? And Sidney Crosby, he was very optimistic about how this was going to turn out, and he was right. And like I said about the viewership from the game against Canada and the USA, so many people were talking about it, from diehard fans, casual fans, media members. It was buzzing all throughout social media. It was just incredible to see. And honestly, this can open up the door for fans who are trying to get into hockey, or fans who are not really who weren't really interested in hockey now. And this is what I was predicting for this overall tournament, which is it can open up the door for so many other fans. And I even have friends who were texting me saying, like, I don't normally watch hockey. Like, I wasn't in as locked in as hockey as I used to be, no pun intended, but now I am because of this tournament.
Exactly. And I think, obviously the biggest news to come out of Tuesday, with all the injuries and illnesses that have kind of run rampant around this tournament, we got a curveball from USA head coach Mike Sullivan that Quinn Hughes, defenseman, Vancouver Canucks, is on his way to Boston to perhaps participate. As we know, Charlie McAvoy sustained an injury that led to a medical issue that required him to be hospitalized. And Sullivan was very, I think, respectful about the whole situation, trying to maintain some privacy there, and said that the Bruins would kind of be handling the follow-up on that with McAvoy. But like, if Quinn Hughes can play in this game, which is the big question here, right? Like, what do you think that would mean for Team USA?
Well, two parts for it. First and foremost, we wish the very best to Charlie McAvoy. We wish him a speedy recovery and in good health. He was vital in the game against Canada because he laid a big hit on Connor McDavid that swung the momentum back into USA's favor, because the great 97 got the scoring going early for Canada, right, but McAvoy kind of put an end to it with his big hit, and the players acknowledged it. So losing him is definitely a big part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you talk to both coaches, and, Team USA coach would say that Cale Makar is the best defenseman out there for Team Canada, making an impact. And then Coach Cooper says that Charlie McAvoy is like the best defenseman on the USA side, making an impact. So there's a very healthy amount of respect on both sides for both of those players. But then, the potential of the curveball of Quinn Hughes is a very interesting possibility.
And the second part to what I was saying is, like, you alluded to it, which is because it's been determined that somebody for sure cannot play for Team USA.
Right.
The rumor is that maybe it'll be Jake Sanderson, because he was originally put into this tournament to replace the at first injured Quinn Hughes. Right. We'll see what happens. That's just speculation on my end. Nothing's for certain, but both Hughes brothers in this tournament, that's what a lot of people, including myself, were talking about. And Quinn Hughes, the reigning Norris Trophy winner in this tournament and playing alongside his little brother, Jack, honestly, I'm looking forward to it if that actually does come into fruition.
Yeah, and obviously this is as of recording. That is the latest status we have. Things could absolutely change on that front. But yeah, I think, going from the Tkachuk brothers, switching gears into the Hughes brothers is always a fun thing in USA hockey with their tradition of brothers playing for the team. But I guess turning our attention to Thursday, will the lineups and who is actually eligible and able to play given all the injuries and illnesses, does that affect any predictions for the outcome?
Honestly, no. I think similar to what Mike Sullivan said during his press conference, I think the reason why players like Austin Matthews, Matthew Tkachuk, the main reason why they were out, supposedly for precautionary reasons, or why Brady Tkachuk, after he went crashing into the post, tried to give it a go, but was deemed ruled out by Sullivan. I think it's just better to take these next couple days easy, rest up, and get ready for what players are treating like a Game 7. So honestly, I'm not too worried about it. Things can change, but on my end, no cause for concern.
Yeah, same. I think that all of these guys are extremely competitive. They want to win. This is the biggest stage for them. And I think that they're going to put it all out there. And like I said, NHL season be damned. This is the most important thing to them right now. And I fully expect this crowd to fuel that for sure here in Boston.
So excited. Pre-game, lineups, national anthems, the actual game, the goals, the penalties. I'm looking
it's going to be real physical.
We saw 3 fights in the first 9 seconds in last Saturday's game. Now,
we won't see that again.
Yeah, Sam Bennett, I just got done with his press conference. He doesn't anticipate for that to happen again, but never say never. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I think led by the Tkachuk brothers, their emotional and dogged determination, you never know. But I know one thing. I think this potentially can become game of the year, or maybe game of the decade. I don't really know, but a lot of people on social media, they're saying this is in store for one of the greatest hockey games in recent memory.
Yeah, and I'm sure Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews will have something to say about that.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Connor McDavid has lost a Game 7 before, and we saw it in the docuseries. He was really upset, and I'm sure he doesn't want that same feeling again, being oh so close, but ultimately falling short, especially since you're representing your country. And as a lot of us know, hockey is one of the main sports in Canada, but the talent coming out of America, don't underestimate it.
Yeah, this is a pretty stacked USA squad. Very excited for Thursday's game, and both of us will talk about it when the time comes. I will be on Locked On NHL on Friday to wrap up the tournament with Gil Martin of Locked On Islanders. Stay tuned.